Was the Star Wars mini-season a huge failure for Fortnite? I mean, on the surface of it, the answer is plainly yes. I mean, if you look at the player count numbers, the player count numbers were the worst they have been, according to Google, according to leakers, according to a lot of people, the worst of the year, obviously. It's been the lowest player count since 2023. That's before I was playing, and I can attest to that as well, because analytically, you guys did not want to watch the Star Wars season. I mean, it was just a bit like, that's the worst season of Fortnite analytically I've had since I've started playing Fortnite. You guys did not want to see Star Wars. Now, I think it's one of two things. I think it's one, Star Wars has its own audience. It has its fans. I think a lot of people showed up initially, and I think they saw similarities in a game they all used to play in Star Wars Battlefront. I think they just went and played that instead, because their numbers, Star Wars Battlefront 2's numbers, suddenly spiked, I think, day 2 or 3 of the Star Wars mini-season. Nobody knows why. I have a feeling it's because a lot of people played the Galactic Battle mini-season, and then they went over and started playing Battlefront because they were very, very similar. And they probably enjoyed playing Battlefront more. I also think the mini-seasons as a whole, the mini-season problem, is also a Disney problem. I think since Disney have come in and taken their 10, 12% correct percentage on the board now, it is clear that their influence on Fortnite especially is prevalent. Last season we had Star Wars, we had Pirates of the Caribbean, we had Marvel for 3 seasons. I'm not complaining because the Marvel season was fun, but we also had Star Wars for 2 weeks around May 4th. I think that the mini season problem is a Disney problem, because looking at what we're getting, or sorry, what we're alleged to be getting, is that we're going to get a Simpsons mini-season, which is a Disney IP. We're going to get a Marvel mini-season, which is a Disney IP. And we've had a Star Wars mini-season, which is a Disney IP. They're all Disney properties. So this is Disney having a direct influence on Fortnite to a damning degree, especially when a mini season has no relation to the story being told on the main island. It does very much feel like Disney kind of put their foot into the plans of this season, or this chapter rather, and said we need a mini season here and a mini season there. So my concern is that until we get the Disney theme park that we're meant to be getting, the open world virtual Disney Super World or Super Island, whatever it is that we're meant to be getting in the future, my big concern is that Disney's influence on Fortnite and these mini seasons is only going to get worse. Now, I hope that it doesn't carry on in the fashion that it does, that they're going to kind of pull it apart and have the mini seasons separate. The suggestion for the Simpsons mini season that's meant to be happening in November is that is now going to be its own separate island. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I do think that's a good idea. I think the other thing that you have to really take into account, and again, I say this being a huge Star Wars fan, and you can all see the stuff behind me, I don't think that Star Wars in itself is a very popular franchise at the moment. I don't think the brand is at its strongest. It's certainly at its weakest that it has been in recent time, with the TV shows being very hit and miss. Shows like Andor being more for an adult audience. There hasn't been a new film in 5 years. The IP itself, I keep on saying IP, that means intellectual property, I think. The brand itself has not been strong recently. Compare that to something like Marvel, where it does go from strength to strength. Yes, okay, at the moment they've gone through a bit of a limping phase with the multiverse storyline and too much Disney Plus stuff. That's a whole different topic to talk about though. But Marvel as itself, compared to Star Wars, is a really, really strong brand. So therefore it can do a full season with Doctor Doom and everything that they did in Chapter 5, which was really, really fun, by the way. I just don't think you can do that annually with Star Wars. By the way, I hope that we only get something that's just a week long next year for May 4th, or 2 weeks. Or if you're going to do something Star Wars related every single year, pull it out, make it a mini map, do a 1 month thing where you have a Star Wars mini map like Reload. And then if the Star Wars players want to go there, the Star Wars fans rather want to go there. That way, what you have by making a mini map is that you have a perfect way to really test how many people want to see Star Wars on that scale in Fortnite again. And if it just does not do well, then really, realistically, Disney and Epic really need to sit down and have a proper discussion as to whether or not Star Wars needs to be in the game every single year. And I'm saying this as a Star Wars fan. I'm saying this with a bias towards Star Wars. I felt like that was a month too long. I saw the drop-off in my analytics as a content creator. I saw the drop-off of interest that I had as well, because it had its little bit of a kick, it had its peak, and then it got boring. It was saved by the live event. I'll get into that in a minute. Something that also really, really irked me about this season as well was the really odd placement of the POIs. Like every single one of them, all on the edge of map, so it didn't intrude with anything else that goes on in the middle of the map. Very rarely, for the month that I played, and I played quite a bit, very rarely did an end game finish in a Star Wars point of interest. Now, you would have thought in a Star Wars mini season you could jig the storm analytics so that the finale of the game, of every single game, would finish in a Star Wars point of interest, but it didn't. It just kind of went everywhere but. Now, if that's going to be the case, why even bother doing the Star Wars points of interest? Why not do more of what they did with the AT-AT walkers and have the ET, and it's more like it's a fusion of Star Wars and Fortnite, as opposed to having the which we still have on the map, by the way, which boggles my mind. You had the First Order outpost, the Resistance outpost, or whatever they're called, from the new era of the films. Then you had Tatooine, effectively, which is a combination and an amalgamation of almost every single film, because they always go there. And then you had Vader's Samurai Solitude, which didn't really change. They just put an Imperial shuttle there and Vader, I don't understand the placement. The placement to me was really weird and really odd. I'm surprised that they didn't try and centralize everything, or just kind of bang it in one corner. Again, I think this goes back to what I said before. I think next year, when you come to the Star Wars point of the year, May, make a Star Wars mini-map. Stick all those points of interest on that mini-map. Make that mini-map really exciting. Endor, Tatooine, Hoth, you name it, stick it on there. Do a Coruscant. You can have a little Coruscant city in the middle. Make it fun. Putting it on the main map, I don't think it's working anymore. I think it's just hindering the Fortnite community from wanting to interact and play Star Wars, and that was evident in the numbers that I'm going back to again. The numbers they speak massively in this situation. When you see a drop off like they did, I do know that Epic are going to take that into account on how they play not just the next Star Wars thing, but every single mini-series, because the suggestion, with the exception of Marvel, the next two mini-seasons, that Simpsons one, it's going to be very hit or miss. Marvel, it'll be a success. We all know that. We all know how successful Marvel can be within Fortnite. But Simpsons, it's going to be an interesting one, to say the least. I think I pointed out, I picked up on this immediately as well. This is one of the things that really griped me. Top 5 Gaming has also spoken about this several times. There was a massively missed opportunity for speeder bikes and speeders, land speeders from Star Wars for the mini season. That kind of, again, is another thing where it was very hit and miss. Like, yeah, okay, great. You had the X-Wing, you had the TIE Fighter, but you could have had land speeders in there as well, and speeder bikes, which would have given the ground mobility a bit more of a Star Wars feel. It just felt like that was missing. Like, you vaulted bikes, and yet you didn't put speeder bikes in. You could have replaced the cars with land speeders. Now, maybe it was just a situation that they may have been making them and they just didn't get them ready in time, maybe, or maybe they just felt that they had enough in there, in which case, fair enough, but I do think it's just a massively missed opportunity. So I spoke about it earlier in the video. My biggest concern, my biggest fear for mini seasons now is the Simpsons one. Now, rumors are swirling about what's going on with this, that it could be similar to what we've had in this mini season gone by with the Galactic Battle. Although new suggestions are saying that season 4 of this chapter is going to be the longest one in recent memory, which suggests that it's going from August all the way through. So that means that the rumor on Simpsons having its own mini map, like Reloaded, seems more plausible. Now, I think long term, this is probably going to be the better approach with brands within these mini season events that will work better. I think I've said it already in this video. Marvel could come in and out as it pleases. It really works. I would not be surprised if we saw some form of Marvel interaction or crossover with the superhero season that we're having right now. But Simpsons as a brand, it's a very old brand. It's 30 plus years old now. I personally haven't watched The Simpsons for a very, very long time. I personally don't think it has the legs for a mini season. So I'm personally kind of relieved that I'm hearing the rumors about it having its own mini map. I think that's the best choice. I think it's the best way to go forward with these mini seasons. But I just, yeah, I felt, I don't know. I'm still processing the whole mini season as it is and trying to put my fandom of Star Wars aside and just say it wasn't good for Fortnite. And that's my concern with other mini seasons as well, that it's just not going to be good for Fortnite long term. I think for me though, however, the big saving grace for this mini season, for the galactic battle that we have just witnessed, was the live event. Not only was it the biggest live event in the last 2 years, but it's the biggest live event I've ever seen. I started playing in Chapter 5. Chapter 5 had mini season events. They were good. They were interesting. They were unique. They were trying something different with the situation that they had. My personal feeling on this, it was really, really good. Was it similar to another live event that's happened in the last few years? Yes, it did have similarities to that, but you could chalk that down to Epic being quite clever, making it like poetry, that it rhymes, that it has those intentional similarities. So it's pulling people who have seen previous events in, but also for a fair few people like myself, it's your first big event, and I really do enjoy it. And I feel like in that sense the live events saved the mini season. I feel like also there does need to be a special mention of the lobby waiting game that they built, because Epic went and built an entire Star Wars Rogue Squadron X-Wing homage to your waiting in queue for the live event. I mean, for me as a gamer, who has played a lot of generations of video games, that harkened back to Rogue Squadron for me on the GameCube, and I had an absolute blast in there. And the fact that they built an entire level of a video game from a bygone era for the waiting area, to me shows Epic's level of commitment to a mini season and to what they do. You know, I mean, you were taking on a Star Destroyer. That's fun for a Star Wars fan. And again, this is the problem with the mini season in general. For a Star Wars fan, that's like peak gaming, taking out a Star Destroyer or defending a Star Destroyer. That was really fun. So I do think Epic needs some massive props for that. I know off the back of things, it doesn't take much of them necessarily to build this stuff, but still, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really awesome. The live event itself, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was cool. The Palpatine interaction was fun and cool. Very nostalgic. Again, for a Star Wars fan, massive. But I also loved how it linked straight into the Super Season and the cohesiveness that the Fortnite storytelling is starting to have again. It does make me look forward to the next live event that should happen at the end of the season, but it's a long way away. We're barely halfway through the year, or we may be halfway through the year now, but yeah. But the mini season as a whole, I don't think they should be embarking on doing this annually in that sense again. I do feel like Fortnite and Star Wars need some separation now. There's been a very long 5-year journey that I've learned about, starting with the rise of Skywalker, collab, and all the Star Wars days in between, leading up to this mini season. So I'm wondering if this is it for a while. But yeah, I mean, overall, mini season was not great. It shows in the numbers. Was the live event great? Yes, it was. But again, if you look at the numbers for the live event, they still weren't like peaking at where Fortnite and Epic probably want them to be. We all know that Epic do listen to the community. They look at the numbers. They are very aware of what works and what doesn't work, and they will take the feedback from the community, whether it's through these YouTube videos or through just the numbers. They'll take it all into account, and the next mini season will hopefully be a lot better. So yeah, that's my opinion on the whole situation with the mini seasons. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think that Star Wars has had its time in Fortnite? Do you think mini seasons are worth it? Do you think they're a bit of a hassle? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you've made it to the end of the video, hit that like button as well. And I'll see you in the next one.